When Muhammad Ali passed away in 2016, the world did not simply lose a former boxer. It lost one of the most recognizable and influential human beings of the modern age. His death marked the end of a life that had reached far beyond the boundaries of sports. For millions of people across different countries, cultures, and generations, Ali was never only a champion in the ring. He had become a symbol of courage, identity, resistance, pride, and dignity. Even in death, his presence remained powerful because the values he represented had already become larger than his physical life. The reaction to his passing showed just how deeply he had touched the world. Leaders, athletes, artists, activists, and ordinary people all spoke about what Ali had meant to them. Some remembered his greatness as a fighter. Others remembered his voice, his humor, his confidence, and his unforgettable words. Many remembered his principles. The choices he made when standing up for his beliefs came at a great personal cost. His funeral was not treated like a private farewell to a sports star. It felt like a global moment of reflection, a collective acknowledgement that a truly rare figure had left the world. One reason Ali's legacy became even stronger after death was because his story had always been about more than winning. There have been many champions in boxing and many gifted athletes in history, but very few have represented something so much bigger than performance. Ali stood for the idea that a person could be talented and outspoken, successful and principled, celebrated and rebellious all at once. He challenged people to think not only about sports, but about justice, race, war, religion, freedom, and self-respect. After his death, these parts of his legacy became impossible to separate from his achievements in the ring. His words continued to live on because they carried a special kind of energy. Ali knew how to speak in a way that people remembered. He was poetic, bold, playful, and fearless. He could make people laugh, inspire them, challenge them, and unsettle them, sometimes all at the same time. Long after his death, his interviews, speeches, and quotes continued to spread across the world. New generations who had never seen him fight still discovered his personality through his voice. And through that voice, they discovered a man who believed deeply in himself and encouraged others to believe in themselves too. His influence after death also grew because history began to see him with even greater clarity. During his life, not everyone agreed with him. Not everyone admired his choices. In fact, some of the most important decisions he made were once criticized harshly. But time has a way of revealing the true weight of character. The actions that once made him controversial eventually became part of what made him heroic. People looked back and saw not just a boxer who talked boldly, but a man who was willing to sacrifice comfort, career, and public approval in order to remain faithful to what he believed was right. That kind of integrity does not fade after death. It becomes stronger. Ali's legacy remained alive in the world of sports, but not in the narrow sense of records and statistics. Of course, his achievements in boxing remained legendary. He was still remembered for his speed, his footwork, his intelligence, his resilience, and the unforgettable fights that defined an era. But what truly endured was the standard he set for what an athlete could be. He showed that sports figures do not have to remain silent. They do not have to shrink themselves into entertainment alone. They can have convictions. They can speak with moral force. They can influence society beyond their profession. In this way, Ali changed the role of the modern athlete forever. After his death, younger athletes continued to speak of him as a source of inspiration. They admired not only the way he fought, but the way he lived. Many saw in him the courage to use their own voice. Some were inspired by his confidence. Others were inspired by his sacrifice. Others by his refusal to let fear control him. Even those who came from sports completely different from boxing looked to Ali as an example of greatness with purpose. His life suggested that success means more when it stands for something beyond personal fame. Outside sports, Ali's legacy reached into culture, education, and social thought. He became the subject of books, documentaries, academic discussions, public memorials, and artistic tributes. Schools taught his story not just as a sporting biography, but as a lesson in conviction and transformation. His life became a way of explaining a difficult period in history and showing how one individual could influence public consciousness. People studied how he changed his name, defended his faith, resisted pressure, and carried himself with dignity in the face of opposition. In death, his story did not become quieter. It became a permanent part of history. There was also something deeply human about the way people remembered Ali after he was gone. For all his power and confidence, the later years of his life had shown a different side of him. As Parkinson's syndrome affected his body, the world watched a man once famous for movement and speech face physical limitation with remarkable grace. This created another layer to his legacy. People no longer saw only the fast, sharp, untouchable champion of the ring. They also saw a man enduring suffering with quiet strength. He continued to appear in public, continued to inspire, and continued to symbolize courage, even when his body could no longer express it the way it once had. That image stayed with people. It reminded them that greatness is not only about dominance. Sometimes it is also about enduring. His death brought renewed attention to the unity of his life story. The young fighter with dazzling confidence, the outspoken champion who challenged authority, the exiled athlete who lost years of his prime, the aging warrior who reclaimed glory, and the elder figure who carried illness with dignity. All of these were not separate versions of Ali. They were chapters of the same identity. After he died, people could see the full arc more clearly. It was not a simple story of fame. It was a story of transformation, sacrifice, reinvention, suffering, and moral courage. That is why his legacy continued to grow. It had depth. It had contradiction. It had struggle. And because of that, it felt real. For many people, Ali's greatest legacy after death was emotional rather than historical. He made people feel that courage was possible. He made people feel that identity could be claimed proudly. He made people feel that even when the world misunderstood you, it was still worth standing firm. He made people feel that style and substance did not have to be opposites. A person could be charismatic and serious, entertaining and meaningful, powerful and compassionate. Ali represented all of this. And after his death, these feelings remained alive in the people he had inspired. He also remained relevant because the world continued to face the kinds of issues he once confronted. Questions of equality, injustice, freedom of belief, public courage, and the responsibility of influential figures did not disappear after his death. If anything, they became even more urgent. In that sense, Ali's life kept speaking to the present. His example remained useful not because it belonged to the past, but because it still offered guidance in the present. Whenever people looked for an example of someone who combined excellence with principle, Ali's name continued to rise. That is the true meaning of a legacy after death. It is not just being remembered. It is continuing to matter. Muhammad Ali continued to matter because he left behind more than achievements. He left behind a standard. He left behind a voice. He left behind a challenge to live with courage and self-respect. He left behind proof that one life, when lived boldly and truthfully, can echo long after the body is gone. Muhammad Ali died, but the force of who he was did not disappear. It remained in memory, in history, in language, in protest, in confidence, in sport, and in hope. His name continued to mean something powerful to people who had never even watched him fight. That is why his legacy after death became one of the strongest parts of his story, because even after the final bell had rung, Muhammad Ali was still teaching the world what greatness looks like.